White collar crimes, typically it's their first time offense. They've been doing it for a while, but they haven't been caught.
If you or someone you know is accused of a white-collar crime, do you know your rights and where to get help? Well, we're going to find out right now, because that's what we're going to ask the lawyer. Hi again, everybody. I'm Rob Rosenthal with AskTheLawyers.com, and my guest is Pennsylvania attorney Frank Walker. I want to remind you right off the top, if you want to ask Frank questions about your situation, it's easy to do. Just go to AskTheLawyers.com. There's a button at the upper right part of the page that says Ask a Lawyer. Click on that and it'll walk you right through the process. Frank, good to see you again. Thank you for helping us out.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Let's just start off. Tell me a little bit about your experience representing people accused of federal white-collar crimes. I'm guessing that's things like embezzlement or other financial crimes. You've done a little bit of this?
I have. And unfortunately, the difference between the everyday frequent flyer, if you will, of people in state court like a DUI repeat offender.
Right.
White-collar crimes, typically it's their first time offense. They've been doing it for a while, but they haven't been caught. And typically they're with an organization, they're with a firm, they're with a business, a company, and somehow they've gotten caught up in something, a federal indictment. And it's a huge deal because they've never been accustomed to this before. It's a different level of crime because you're dealing with a different level of offender.
Is this how do people usually get caught up into this, Frank? Is it usually, I'm guessing it's both ways. Sometimes they didn't realize it, it's inadvertent, and sometimes they knew exactly what they were doing?
Most of the times they know exactly what they're doing. But usually what happens is that the agencies, we call it the alphabet boys, the FBI, DEA, ATF, whoever's involved, IRS, they get involved in these investigations, and they start talking to the people at the small level, the small fish. They talk to them, and then they work their way up. They work their way up, and the person's usually cooperating, working their way up to the top. And by the time they get to the top, they get the big fish, and all of a sudden, it's a huge deal in the media, front page, because it's usually millions and millions of dollars. There's a lot of people who are victims. Their money's been lost, and unfortunately, someone may be going to prison for a very long time.
What are some? Give me some examples. What are some of the charges maybe that you've helped with? What are we talking about?
I mean, I've seen credit card fraud. I've seen tax evasion. I've seen tax fraud. I've seen just straight theft. There's opportunities where people, they make credit card machines and they go on these retail theft rings all across the nation, crossing state lines, which is offensive in of itself by committing a crime in different states. So you've seen it all over the place. So it's just from the street level all the way up to the ivory tower. There are clients in between who definitely need our help.
So do people usually know that they're being investigated, Frank? Or is it a total surprise to them when someone shows up with a warrant and maybe handcuffs? Or has there been maybe warning signs along the way?
There's usually warning signs. Again, you're talking about people who are working their way up. You start to see people more frequently that you wouldn't ordinarily see. You start to see different cars, different vans around your home, your place. You start answering questions you wouldn't ordinarily ask. People are coming around you wouldn't ordinarily hang out with. And all of a sudden, things start crashing down all at once. And then you see these people in court, and you're thinking, oh, wow, I recognize that person when they were coming to my office. I remember that conversation. So you start to think about different things you're doing on a daily basis. These are the things that add up to cumulative for evidence against you at court. So it's not just a surprise. It's usually over a period of time, and eventually it catches up to you. Once you realize it, it's too late.
When should they contact an attorney like yourself? When somebody shows up with a warrant? Sometime before that? What's your advice?
Preferably earlier. Preferably when you start to hear rumblings, when you start to hear people ask you questions you wouldn't normally answer, and also when you start to see people start to get into infiltrate your group, your circle of friends, because we're in a habit by nature. We go to dinner at the same time. We go to dinner at the same place. We hang around certain people. Then all of a sudden, people start coming to infiltrate. You your ears have to go up a little bit higher at that point. You should have the instinct at that point because, frankly, you're doing this for the first time. You're not too good at it because you're not a career person who does this for a living, which is good and bad. But you should contact an attorney immediately when you start to hear rumors because people start to talk. They can't keep a secret. They start to talk. Hey, I got a subpoena. So-and-so got a subpoena. So-and-so was talking to so-and-so after hours. Maybe you need to start lawyering up really, really quick.
What are if we're talking, say, embezzlement or financial fraud, what are some defenses that could possibly be used?
Again, it was inadvertent or the loss amount. Typically, when you're in a crime where it's white-collar crime, you're dealing with a lot of money and a lot of victims. So the earlier you get involved, an attorney involved, they can really limit your exposure by going in, turning yourself in and say, listen, we understand we did something wrong. We understand what's exposure here, but we want to limit that by saying that the loss amount stops today. Stop counting. Stop looking at additional information. Don't bring in additional relevant conduct, because I know if I get more relevant conduct, my offense level goes up, my prison exposure gets greater. So main defenses are stop counting at this point, because I'm turning myself in and I'm putting myself at the mercy of the court and hoping to get a plea agreement.
But I think I know what your answer is going to be here. When you talk about turning yourself in, don't turn yourself in without somebody like yourself there.
Absolutely. Whether it's me or anyone else, you find someone who's experienced in white-collar crime, specifically in that crime for which you're charged. For example, if the attorney does murder charges all day long, they may be very good at murder charges, but they're not doing white-collar defense, specifically theft, tax evasion, anything like that. You want to find someone who is in your area specific to your charges at that time.
And even if you think you didn't do anything wrong, you still need an attorney?
Absolutely. We as humans, we have this ability to think, oh, I can just confess everything to them. They're going to be so nice to me. I'm just going to tell them everything. I need to get this off my chest. I need to get this over with. This has been burdening me for so long. That's not the time for that. Get with an attorney. Let loose with your attorney. Tell them everything. Get that off your chest with your attorney. Not the agents, not the police, not the detectives. You want to make sure you speak to an experienced attorney immediately. Tell them everything.
Great advice is always very helpful, Frank. Thank you so much. I learned something every time we talk.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
And that's going to do it for this episode of Ask the Lawyer. My guest has been Pennsylvania attorney Frank Walker. I want to remind you, if you want to talk to Frank and ask him questions about your specific situation, go to askthelawyer.com. Click the button at the upper part of the page that says Ask a Lawyer, and you can ask away right there. Thanks for watching. I'm Rob Rosenthal with Ask the Lawyers.